Welcome back to the Well Off Podcast. I'm your co-host, Gina Sim.
And I'm your co-host, Dr. Tara.
Hello, Dr. Tara.
Hello, my love.
How's it going?
Good. You look beautiful today.
Same to you. That red lipstick always hits.
Girl, I don't leave home without it.
I feel like when I put on red lipstick, I look like a drag queen.
You know what? Everybody thinks that, but you have to just get used to it and embrace it, and eventually it'll work.
Gotcha.
But you have to find the right shade.
Yes,
That's key.
Absolutely. So for our wellness tip of the week, I am a little tired today. And, I feel like sleep is just so important. What are your thoughts on that?
Sleep is everything. And when I meet with my patients, my clients, it's one of the first things I ask them is, what is your sleep like? How many hours are you getting? Is it interrupted? Because if you are not sleeping well, nothing will go well for the rest of your day.
Amen.
And it tends to make you feel anxious. So if you have anxiety and you didn't get enough sleep, you're going to feel anxious, but really it's sleep deprivation.
Right. So your wellness tip of the day is get some sleep. So who do we have today, Tara? Because we are live in studio in Hartford, Connecticut, and this guest traveled from New York City to see us.
Well, I am really excited to have this lovely guest with us. She is a friend of a dear friend. And today, listeners, we have Bianca D'Alessio, who is the founder of the Masters Division at Nest Seekers International, which is ranked the #1 team in New York City residential real estate. But not only does this powerhouse have that to her credit, Bianca is also the star of Selling the Hamptons on HBO Max, which is streaming now.
Wow.
Welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today and to be in person with the
It's unbelievable. It's
I
unbelievable.
know.
So excited you were able to make it work.
Thank you.
So you have really accomplished so much in your real estate career, and we would love for you to share what that journey has looked like with our listeners.
Oh, wow. Where on the roller coaster of the ride should we
Start at the
enter?
beginning.
Starting at the beginning. So I've been in residential real estate for about 10 years now. And I got into the industry, I don't want to say by luck, but I was working for a nonprofit. I was traveling the United States and I was kind of figuring myself out as a young professional. I got my license and jumped into the New York City market. The first year, as many real estate brokers will tell you, was brutal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Didn't make any money, but learned a lot. And I realized that was the key, not just in this industry, but in anything you do. It's you have to start at the bottom. You have to ask questions. You have to be relentlessly curious about everything. And if you embody that mindset and that behavior, over time, you have a compounding effect of like knowledge and learning. And so I would say in year 2, year 3, I started to hit my stride, and it wasn't then, the last few years have been building, growing, figuring out my niche in the industry. And then 3 years ago, I started my business and that's where everything just
Exploded.
became really amazing.
Yeah. Amazing.
And it's been awesome ever since.
And 3 years to be ranked #1 in New York City, which is probably, am I right, the most competitive or the most?
I would say the most competitive. Yes.
Wow. Yes.
Definitely the most competitive industry. Real estate industry, just because there are so many real estate brokers. The barrier to entry is not that high in terms of other professions where you need, tremendous education and skills and training. It's really about like boots on the ground learning and the way that you connect with people and the way that you're able to be strategic about your business. And so it's been really exciting shifting my behavior, my mindset of just being a real estate broker to now managing over 30 agents. My team grew to almost 40 at one point in time. Wow. And a lot of people with a lot of personalities and career paths and, thinking like an owner instead of just like an operator.
Sure.
Love that.
And in that market, I mean, the commissions are remarkable.
They are.
The price of real estate is just skyrocketed.
$1 for a condo.
Yes.
Exactly. So, I mean, that must be really cutthroat and competitive.
Very cutthroat, very male dominated as opposed to a lot of other real estate industries, particularly in suburban markets where they're more female driven. New York City, there's a lot of banks, there's a lot of financing, there's a lot of developers are my main clientele. And I would say I'm normally the one woman in most rooms that I go into. So
Is that where that song comes from?
Yeah.
I'm looking for a man in finance.
Yeah.
Trust fund.
I think it may have had a different. I do love that.
I'm sorry. Is that my motto? Sorry.
You hit every note there too. That was so
you know, I've
good.
been
It's her mantra. It's her mantra.
I'm manifesting it into
Yes,
the universe.
yes. I hope we get to talk about manifesting today because I'm a big believer in
Tara, say no
girl.
more. Say no more.
Queen over here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell us how the real estate market is doing right now. So, we're in the new year, 2025. Like, how are you seeing things trend for this year?
So it's had its ups and downs since the post-pandemic market. I would say my market is unique in that I'm very diversified.
Okay.
So my team and my business, we're at every single price point in multiple different neighborhoods and states and even countries. So because of that, I feel the shifts in business a little bit different. But I think looking holistically at the real estate market across America, it's been really, really competitive. It's been really, really hard to afford a home and to find a home because of low inventory and because of high interest rates. So now with interest rates coming down, a new president in place, there's a lot more optimism for affordability in the country.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see how that plays out over the next few months and how that impacts the next generation of real estate, because we always have to be thinking, in my industry, I'm always thinking in 5 and 10 year spans, right?
Right.
You build homes now, they're not available now. They come to market in a year, 2 years. So what policies come into place that are going to impact the ripples in the market?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So before we pivot and start talking about your stardom on HBO Max, I would love it for you, especially for our listeners. I know that there are realtors out there that would love to get into a higher price point market, and maybe they're younger, or maybe they are a woman and they feel it's male dominated. Like, what do you think some of the tips are, or the keys are, if they want to break into a higher commissioned market?
I would say the number one tip I would give for anyone breaking into the industry is work on your confidence. Because if you are confident at the price point and with the clientele you're working with, and you own your domain, you then are able to pivot into the next one.
Yes.
But by trying to be inauthentic in breaking into a sector of the market when you're not confident in who you are as a person, as a leader, as a woman,
Right.
How you relate to people, how you communicate with people, it's much harder to do. So I always recommend for everyone, not just in sales, but in any profession, is work inward first, develop those skills, because then once you feel like, wow, I've got a grasp on this, then you can say, let me challenge myself a little bit more. And that's the turning point. It's okay, I know I'm going to put myself in a place of discomfort for a little bit of time.
Yep.
I know I'm going to start losing more business because it's business I haven't been going after, but I'm okay with that because it means I'm going to break through to the next whatever aspiration of your career is.
Sure. That's great advice.
Yeah, and I mean sales. I'm in sales as well, so it's kind of you can't be afraid of rejection.
No.
and you can't take it personal.
No.
And it's just on to the next and keep trucking.
And once you are at a point in your career, wherever it is, that you're not seeing rejection, it means that you're getting too comfortable.
Yeah.
Like, that's when you need to start pushing
That's a
yourself
good
more.
point.
Like,
Yeah.
rejection's part of it. So you have to embrace the
Start
rejection.
reaching, so kind of talking about manifesting. So, Tara is very big into that. And, we're talking about, we're going to do this and we're going to be that. And I'm like, okay, slow down there, killer. She's like, no, if we put it out there, tell us about manifesting. You're really into it.
I'm very, very into manifesting. I've manifested a lot of things that have happened in my life. I'm a very goal-driven person, but then I also believe just in visualization. And I think there's something so powerful in like envisioning the person that you will be at a point in time in the future. It's not just the material thing. That's not what it is. It's who is the person that is able to achieve those things: career success, relationship success. One of the biggest manifestation practices I put into place this year is manifesting the person I wanted to be in my relationships. I had always manifested career aspirations or, the home that I wanted, the tangible things. But who was the person I wanted to be in relation to my siblings, in relation to my parents? And I got really, really clear about who am I to them and how do I manifest being that person? And I started every single day thinking, okay, I'm the protector to my siblings, and I need to be the supporter of my parents, and I need to be the boss, but I need to be responsible and empathetic to my team. And putting those emotions and those thoughts into practice with each person I was manifesting relationships with changed the way that I was interacting with them on a day-to-day, because it was that thought process, it was that emotion at the forefront of my decision making, of the way that I was communicating. So I fully believe that you can manifest anything you want. It's just a matter of every single day, like being intentional about it and always coming back to it.
Right. Did you come to that on your own, or was that like therapy, or how did you figure all that out?
So it was a few years ago. I love how we started this about talking about sleep, because I had started my business and I was not sleeping.
Okay.
And it was, I would say I'm a very high performing non-sleeper. However, over time, that does not work.
Right,
and it took
right.
me the 18 months of not sleeping to realize, like, wow, something's off, like, inside of me. Like, I'm showing up every day, I'm doing the work, but I'm not feeling good about myself.
Okay.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to start with, I want to feel these 3 feelings by the end of the year. And I wanted to feel, I wanted abundance. I wanted to feel disciplined in my practice, and I wanted to feel empathetic. And I put those things into place, and I started making decisions around, was I feeling those things with the people I was working with, the business I was taking on, the new projects that I was forcing myself into, because I have a problem with overcommitting sometimes. I'm getting really excited.
You can say no.
Yeah, we know about that.
Yeah,
we
right?
know a lot about that. Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to revolve all of my decision making around these feelings. I want to manifest being this person, feeling this way in my interactions. And by the end of the year, I was like, I was going to say a bad word. I'm not going to curse on here. I was going to say, wow, I cannot believe who I turned into at the end of this year. It was like night and day.
Wow.
Like, I started sleeping and I started taking care of my health, because if I wanted to be empathetic, I needed to have more patience. And if I wanted to have more patience, I needed to sleep. Like, everything started to become circular.
Wow.
And I started just tracking these trends. And I'm like, okay, if I manifested who I want to be, who do I want to be in relation to people? And then it's become a ripple through everything. So it's been pretty cool.
And the biggest key is, I think people do a lot of talking, but with manifesting, it's, for me at least, it's 2 things. It's visualizing, because when we dream like a movie, like pictures.
100%.
We don't dream words on a page. So we have to be able to see it. And then it's about every day doing one, even the tiniest little thing, but there has to be an action step towards it.
Absolutely. And then it's also, you're prepared to say yes, or like the opportunities start becoming more in your periphery than before.
Yes.
You know, it was 2 years ago. I had never publicly spoke before. And it was that December, I set out my goals that I'm like, okay, I'm going to start manifesting public speaking. And I'm going to start thinking about myself walking on stage. What does that feel like? Feel the anxiety. Like, okay, I'm nervous. My hands are sweating. My heart's racing. Feel it, feel it, feel it. And it was a month later, I got a call to give a keynote in Dubai. And I don't even remember what she asked me. I just said yes.
Whoa.
I had no idea that we were asking me to do the keynote. Thought I was just going to Dubai to speak.
Yeah.
I showed up. My name was keynote speaker, Bianca D'Alessio. I'm like, okay, now my heart's racing and my hands are sweating.
Yeah.
All the things that I had manifested, I was feeling. And I'm like, but you then walk on stage and you deliver the speech and you crush it.
You
and
crush
then you
it.
get off stage and you feel amazing.
Yeah.
The anxiety's okay.
Yeah.
Work through
It's
it.
fuel.
It's
fuel.
fuel.
It's energy.
Yes, yes.
And it's just being channeled in the right direction.
Exactly.
I love that you just said yes. I read a book a long time ago, Shonda Rhimes, The Year of Yes.
Yes.
And
Yep.
she just said yes to everything.
Yep.
Shonda, if you're listening, I love you. But so kind of like that, just stepping out of your kind of like that, stepping out of your comfort zone and doing things that really kind of push the needle. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So speaking of pushing the needle, you have acquired this skyrocketed success in New York City real estate and had become, and you're young, right? Yes.
Yes.
So at a younger age, not that we're discriminating, we're not ageism in the opposite direction,
No.
but it's unusual to acquire that success so early in life. And now you've taken it a step further by being recognized and now being a star of a show on HBO Max, selling the Hamptons. So what is that like?
It was I mean, filming for reality TV is crazy.
And did you manifest this?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Honestly, it was what I had manifested that came after being on the show.
Okay.
The biggest thing, being on the show was amazing for my business. The biggest thing that it gave me, though, was like owning who I am as a person and embracing my vulnerability. And that only came because I was forced to be totally authentically myself on TV. And I know we'll talk about some, going through mental health struggles, but I had a lot going on with my family at the time. And I was going to say no, because I didn't want all of that being aired and like having to face that.
Yeah.
Because I had this, you have to be a strong woman and you have to be, everything's okay all of the time and nothing can ever be wrong. And you just show up every day and you put a smile on and you power through. And that's how I was operating. And being on the show, I remember my producer was like, you have to own your story. So you're going to tell it, or the news and the media is going to tell it for you.
Wow.
Which one do you want? And I was like,
for that producer. Yeah.
I was like, okay, how do we do this?
Jesus.
And so that was how that came out through the show. I mean, it was awesome showing all the properties I worked on and being with my clients.
Yes.
And
Right.
all the great things that come with reality TV. But it was really being able to be forced into being my authentic self and owning my vulnerability, and then figuring out like, wow, this actually helps people and this empowers people. And that's far more connective than selling a $10 million home in the Hamptons. Is like, oh, how you're able to connect with people's life story and the trials and the tribulations of life that we all go through, but most people aren't comfortable talking about because where I was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Strong face,
Yes,
tough exterior,
yes.
nothing's ever wrong.
Yeah.
And life on this side of it is so much better than on that side.
Yeah.
The housewife mentality from the 1950s.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. But there's that saying, and I subscribe to it, that just because it doesn't look, wait, how do they say it? Just because
It looks okay doesn't mean it is.
it isn't heavy, or just because it looks easy doesn't mean the load isn't heavy.
Start over. Just say the whole thing again.
Scrap it.
Oh, okay.
And scrap that. I'm going to say, what the fuck was I doing? I know what I'm saying. I know what I was saying. Like,
I know what you're
like
saying,
just because
too.
it doesn't look it doesn't mean it isn't hard, or because
Yes. Yes. And,
Okay.
and
No, that's good.
and
Keep it
and
going.
there's so much with like perception of like you have it all figured out. And that was the biggest thing I realized when I was starting my business, and I'm sure both of you could relate to that tremendously, is like, okay, now you have this business, now you have this responsibility, what do you do with it? You're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just
Right.
figuring it out every single day. Like
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
making the best decision I can with the information I have in front of me, one day at a time.
Yeah.
That's the best that you could do. And be kind to people along the process, and make sure that you are taking care of yourself,
Right.
so you can show up for the people around you.
For sure, for sure. And I want to thank you because, someone like you who now is very much in the public eye, I need people like you in my corner. We need people that normalize and talk about mental health struggles, because it's 1 out of every 2 people in their lifetime. So
That's
whether
a
it's
crazy statistic.
because whether it's you yourself
Yeah.
or the person next to you, you don't leave life without experiencing it, whether directly or peripherally. So we still stigmatize it. And so when you can openly share, someone that has acquired such tremendous success and you're out in the public eye, we need people like you. We need an army of people like you.
I agree. And I think, it's staggering to know that. And it's crazy to think that it is still so stigmatized. And what people don't realize is the spectrum of how mental health exists and manifests, and how tremendously it impacts your life, your relationships, your decision making, the way you're connecting with people, and the relations you have at a specific point in time in your life, depending on what you're going through, that most people don't even know about. And so unless you can start opening yourself up and having those conversations and bringing people into your corner, they'll never know. They could get the totally wrong perception of you based on they don't know what's actually going on behind closed doors. And
For
so
sure.
it's
And
hard to
we
share.
never know.
We never know.
No.
And
Never know.
everyone is going through something.
Everyone is going
And
through
if they're
something.
not in this moment, they have or they will be,
Correct.
because that's the nature of life.
Absolutely.
So you had some mental health struggles. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about some of that?
Yeah, of course. When I was younger, I struggled with depression, and it was very hard. I struggled with depression for a lot of my life. When my parents got divorced when I was 8 years old, it got way worse in my teen years, all through college. And I took on a lot of responsibility with my siblings.
Is that kind of why you're the protector?
That protector mentality.
How many siblings do you have?
I have 2 full siblings and 2 half siblings.
Oh,
so
okay.
yes, there's a lot of us.
Yeah.
And you're the oldest?
I am the oldest. And I've always had this very aggressive personality. So even at a young age, I was like, it's my job. It's my role. But with that, it was putting on that tough exterior and not being able to open up. So for so long, I never opened up. I never admitted when I needed help. And then it like cascaded into diminishing my self-worth of like, okay, I don't understand myself, or am I becoming who I'm supposed to be? Or I'm so confused with my emotions and my feelings, or where I fit into the world and feeling valuable. And fortunately, I was able to get a lot of therapy when I was younger.
Excellent.
I'm a very, very big advocate of therapy and talking and finding your people who you can relate to, and also developing the skills to tune out the people who don't understand those challenges, because I think that's something that's so hard to realize. This isn't my story, but with so many other people's stories of, getting advice from someone you're in a relationship with, or a parent who does not understand the struggle of mental health or what you're going through. And it's just keep powering through, or put a happy face on. Sometimes you really need, you need more help than that.
My mother never went to therapy, and her mother never went to therapy. And this mother,
Right,
I'm like, well, we are in a new era.
Exactly. And if there's one thing I learned through all of that, is that there is no limit to how much you can work on yourself.
Yeah.
The more self-awareness that you build, like the stronger you will be in everything you do in life.
And we're never done. There's no finish line. There's no stamp on your forehead. We're evolving.
Certificate.
It's a continual process till the day we leave this earth.
Yep. So that created the foundation for that. And I think a lot of that fueled me as I, entered my professional career.
Yeah.
Because I do think that having the self-doubt in the back of your mind, like, it becomes a driver.
Right.
And so I don't necessarily think it's all bad. For me, for my story, it's not saying for everyone.
Right.
I figured out how to cope with it. I figured out, okay, I'm starting to feel anxious. This is what I need to do. Or I'm starting to go down a slippery slope like I was with not sleeping. Like, okay, it is time to course correct, Bianca. Like, pull yourself up. You've done this before. You could do it again. You've experienced hard things in your past, and you're strong enough to persevere. And like, it's telling yourself, that's part of the manifestation.
That's right.
It's part of this positive self-talk, and you are strong enough, even if you don't feel strong enough.
I love it.
And also part of manifestation, and again, for me, and I guess, people like us that really live and breathe it, it's about gratitude, but it's also about evidence.
Yes.
What evidence do I have, right? That I'm good at something, or I'm talented, I'm smart, I'm a good person, and focus on those facts instead of those icky negative feelings that can creep in.
Absolutely.
And I heard that a saying the other day is 85% of the things you worry about don't actually happen.
I think it's 95.
It might be.
Yeah,
it might be.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's
so
such a waste of energy.
I know.
I say that to my team and the people I work with all the time. There's controllables in life, and then there's the uncontrollables.
Yep.
Like, stop focusing on the uncontrollable. Focus on the people who are here. Be thankful for the people who are here.
Yes.
Focus on the great things that have happened. Putting those gratitude practices into your life every single day.
Yes.
Of like, okay, I may not be where I want to be. I may be going through a really difficult period of time right now, and I may not feel good about myself. My relationship may be really rocky. I may be in a really difficult financial situation, but okay, what am I grateful for? And then focusing on that. And it's so much easier said than done. So I'm not minimizing that at all.
Right.
But again, it's these behaviors over time, how they compound in your life, that when you go through the next moment of adversity, it feels a little bit easier because you've you've instilled this into your brain and into your mindset that you can fight through it a little bit faster and a little bit stronger.
Well, it's no wonder that with that mindset and that energy that you've been able to create such a successful team and a business, because I'm sure everyone kind of soaks that in when they're around you.
Yes.
It's like sunshine.
Thank you.
So real quick before we let you go, how is it doing the reality show? Like you said, it's hard. Like, what's it like?
Well, first of all, it's a whole second job because filming 10 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
And then also needing to sell real estate and manage people. Not so easy. But I mean, being able to showcase what I do and what I love on camera and tell that story for an audience is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I love what I do so much.
Right.
I love the properties I'm in. I love the clients I'm with. And I love how cutthroat my business is, honestly. I love how it pushes me, how it challenges me, how it gives me the opportunity to rise up and learn from it. And so being able to share that and live through that and create that, it feels, it's very rewarding.
How did you get your own show on HBO Max? How did that even happen?
So it's funny. I learned a lot about production and how TV shows are made. And I was actually the final piece of the puzzle for who they cast to be on the show. They'd put together this group of agents and then they were looking for a strong female lead. And I was approached. And at that point in time, again, I know we don't have enough time to talk about imposter syndrome, but I'm sure you can speak to that's a very real thing.
Yeah.
As a woman in any industry, as humans in any industry, when you're pivoting into a new chapter of life. And I'm like, am I a strong female lead?
Yes.
Like, am I qualified for this? Like, can I do this? And again, I was like, okay, just Bianca, say yes.
Yeah.
And you will figure it out, you know? And then
So glad you did.
I'm so glad I did too.
But again, evidence. They wouldn't have tapped you
Correct.
if you weren't worthy or qualified.
Love that.
Thank you.
So fun fact, some people play Wordle or Candy Crush. Zillow is my hobby. I love real
I love
estate.
going on that too.
I'm on Zillow all the time. And whenever I travel, I'm like, oh, let me look up that address and let me see what
that
that.
house.
So I love your show.
Thank
the
you.
properties are just,
They're gorgeous.
you know,
Absolutely
you.
stunning.
Thank you.
like
I wish I just had 10 mil in
over
the
the
bank. I could
top.
just come buy one real
over
quick.
the top. I'm fascinated by the buyers and just like, you know, the whole process of it. It's so cool. So will there be a season 3?
I hope so.
Okay.
It's a waiting game
From
right
our
now.
lips to God's ears, we're manifesting.
we're
it
Yes,
right
manifesting.
now.
And speaking of, you manifested this book that's coming out in the spring, right?
Yes.
And what is that about?
So this book is all about, it's called Mastering Intentions. If you can't tell, I live very intentionally. And it's 10 practices for how you amplify your power and lead with lasting impact. And it's touching on almost everything that we talked about today for how do you build the self-awareness? How do you target those key milestone moments in your life where you were challenged, and how do you look back on them, put yourself back in those shoes for what you learned from them? Because looking back now 20 years to, you know, that parent's divorce or when you lost a close friend and how that completely changed the trajectory of your life, there was very strong moments of sadness, but there was strength and power that came from it as well. What you learned, and you have to tap into the power, and you have to tap into how that changed you and how that set you on the path you are today. You can't rewrite history. All you could do is use those learning moments as building blocks for the future, for what you've learned about yourself and how you could connect with people, because life is not good alone.
No.
Like it is so much better when you build a band of people around you.
Yes.
When you lead with a collaborative energy.
Yes.
And you think of how do we do it together, and that's what it's all about. So,
Love it.
yes.
So I want to reflect that back for our listeners, that no matter what happens to you, if you take the experiences as lessons and you grow, there's nothing you can't do. You can still be unstoppable and very successful in your life.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. So we have to ask you the $1 million question of our podcast is, what does well off mean to you?
What does well off mean to me? I want to go back to this concept. We talked about those 3 emotions that I was feeling and manifesting before. And to me, it's about feeling liberated. Liberated in the way you get to make decisions, the people that you interact with, the way that you spend your time and your energy, and liberated in knowing that you get to control your destiny and your future. If you can feel liberated within your body, you will exude a different energy, and that's well off.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
answer.
that's a different one.
I love that.
Yeah, I like that a
I
lot.
always try to reevaluate, like, what are my core values, and freedom is one of them.
Yep.
And really kind of echoing what you said, like just having freedom of choice, freedom to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, who you want to be with. So, ooh, I love it.
Yeah,
That's a goodie.
That was really great. And so how can people find you?
You could find me like all day, every day on Instagram. I'm very active on my stories. So please tag along.
She sure is. I love it. I love following. I mean, it's always great to see all the stuff you're doing.
Real-time updates, that's where you find me. But you can find me on any social media platform and channel. Bianca D'Alessio. Find me on HBO Max. 2 seasons of Selling the Hamptons. And if you want to reach out to me for business, Bianca@nestseekers.com. Contact me anytime.
Stay tuned for that book coming out in the spring.
Yes, and my book in the spring.
So excited. Oh, thank you so much for being here, for taking the time out of your busy schedule, and for inspiring us.
This was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.
Gina, I love her.
Yes.
I love accomplished women.